into Europe. We'll ask an expert on European policy what can be done now. And if you live in the UK, you might be able to hug someone in public pretty soon. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has confirmed a major easing of COVID restrictions. We look at what the UK's post-COVID future could hold. All of that and, of course, your business and your sports news to come in the next hour. But we begin in occupied East Jerusalem, where at least 300 Palestinians have been injured after Israeli security forces stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's the fourth day of clashes in occupied East Jerusalem as police crack down on protests against the planned eviction of Palestinian families from their homes. And as Natasha Hussain reports, the unrest is only expected to escalate as Israel marks Jerusalem Day, its annual celebration of the capture of East Jerusalem.
Mayhem at one of Islam's most revered sites. Israeli police attack Muslim worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem. Palestinians throw rocks to defend themselves. And Israeli security forces respond with stun grenades and tear gas at the compound, which is also one of the holiest sites in Judaism, known as Temple Mount.
We were praying in the mosque. Suddenly the soldiers vacated the mosque without any alert. They started to shoot the bombs, and there are many, dozens of injured, dozens of people who were injured from the bombs here and the bullets. It's amazing. This is a praying place, not for fight.
The latest violence follows a month of tensions. On Monday, Israel marked Jerusalem Day, celebrating its capture and occupation of East Jerusalem in 1967. Palestinians regard the day, which usually sees young Zionists march through Muslim areas, as a deliberate provocation. In an effort to avoid trouble, Israeli police have banned the hardline nationalists from marching to the area around Al-Aqsa Mosque. However, some hardliners have vowed to defy the ban and story the mosque complex. The unrest was triggered by protests against the threatened eviction of Palestinians in Sheikh Jarrah. Families living in the occupied East Jerusalem neighborhood are Palestinian refugees from the 1948 war surrounding Israel's creation. They took up residence there under an agreement with Jordan, which controlled East Jerusalem from 1948 until 1967.
What is happening in Sheikh Jarrah is the arbitrary displacement of about 500 people. Israel wants to raise our neighborhood and put Jewish settlers in our place. Court cases are ongoing, but we continue to emphasize our right to this land. These have been our homes since 1956. We were born here, we grew up here, and we will remain in our homes.
Israel's Supreme Court was due to hold a hearing on Monday on the appeal of more than 70 people against the eviction order, but the session has been postponed due to the unrest. Israel has defended the actions of its security forces, but international pressure is growing, with the UN and EU and countries like the US, Russia, and Turkey expressing concern about the escalating situation. Natasha Hussain, TRT World.
Well, let's go live now to occupied East Jerusalem and speak to Mohammed Al-Qasim, who's joining us from near Damascus Gate. Mohammed, good to have you with us again. Now, we heard in Natasha's report there, of course, Jerusalem Day protests and marches are expected to be held. What time do you think that's going to start?
Well, it will start in the next hour or so, and it's expected here and at Damascus Gate around 4:30 our time, which is in about a couple of hours. It's already the tension is built up, and after this morning bloody storming of Israeli security forces into the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Al-Haram al-Sharif, which resulted in hundreds of Palestinian worshippers wounded, as well as at least 15 critically injured. But at this moment, the situation is extremely tense as the time for the march approaches, and more Palestinians also are surrounding this area. At least their numbers are accumulating, and when the extremists and the settlers approach this area and get close here in a couple of hours, who knows what's going to happen. But this is the recipe for major violence breakout.
Yeah, and that violent breakout seems as if we can predict it. So I do wonder, with all that's happened in the past couple of days, what measures do you think will be put in place by the Israeli security forces? They stopped Palestinians going to Al-Aqsa a couple of days ago. Will they stop these Israeli settlers from arriving at the Western Wall and other places around the compound?
They stopped them even to enter the Al-Aqsa Mosque today for a few hours before they reopened the gates. Nothing major has been imposed or implemented by the Israeli security forces to calm the situation down, or even to stop the march from coming into this area. They're trying to. The only thing that we've seen is they put some metal barricades around this area just so they can control the crowd movement. But they're not really, they haven't imposed a reduction on the number of people who will be part of this march. They haven't even maybe changed the route of it, making it maybe restricted to certain parts. It's being allowed to come here from West Jerusalem into occupied East Jerusalem. And who knows what's going to happen, with the exception of, like I said, the metal barricades and maybe extra deployment of Israeli security forces. Those are the only two things that have been done. I must say that the Israeli police and security forces here in the city, at least where we are, have been using heavy-handed measures to keep Palestinians away from this area. They are, they're arresting any Palestinians who don't, adhere to their demands or commands. And they have shot tear gas at small crowds who would not disperse at their orders.
Okay, Mohammed, thank you for that reporting. Back with you later during the day. But let's now bring in Dr. Walid Namour. As Mohammed was saying, there many people have been injured in these past few days of clashes in occupied East Jerusalem. Dr. Namour is the Chief Executive Officer of the Augusta Victoria Hospital, and he's joining us now live. Dr. Namour, just what kind of injuries are you seeing coming into the facility?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Melbourne. We have seen in the many East Jerusalem Arab Palestinian hospitals several cases, mostly shocking bruises, breaking of the bones, inhalation of gases, affected by the stun grenades and the gas grenades all over. Many of these cases, luckily mostly have been treated and discharged. They're mostly minor to moderate cases. We do not, we have one martyr, one died, but the others are really under treatment. But this is a continuation of an old-time problem that, that calls upon for international protection for the Arabs in Jerusalem. Ever since the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan, we have been seeing all sorts of persecution against Palestinians at all levels. Even we're talking about civilians who go to pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they are persecuted. They are followed by settlers, by the Israeli army. Not only that, over the last few weeks, and it's a bit strange that when the Jewish nationalists are really celebrating the flag march on May 10th for the commemorating the unification of Jerusalem. Jerusalem today, Mr. Melbourne, is never divided as it is today. Culturally, politically, economically, at all levels. I don't know how they call it unification. It's an apartheid system clear to anybody, not only to experts. You just pass by, you can be from anywhere else in the world. This is an apartheid system that is being put, as we talk, dozens of indigenous Palestinians are facing imminent disposition from their homes in the occupied East Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah. This move is being carried out by heavily armed settlers backed by the Israeli right-wing government and legitimized by the unjust Israeli court system. The ultimate purpose, these people want to evict Palestinians, indigenous Palestinians, from their homes who have been already refugees from 1948 to move them out and construct Israeli settlements. And they are talking about unification. I don't know what law in the world you can break into Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is a very holy to Muslims. People are unarmed. They are there to pray for God. What is the excuse that they give to the world to go into Al-Aqsa, shoot, throw bombs of all sorts? Yeah. This is really, there is no solution but international protection for the 360,000 Palestinians living in Jerusalem.
And Dr. Namor, just let me confirm something that you said there in that answer. Someone has died, a patient has died as a result of the injuries they sustained in the past couple of days in one of the facilities?
No, he was killed actually. He was shot at this morning at near in the vicinity of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and he has not been able to go to a hospital. Many injured, many are still in hospitals. Today, I think it's close to 300 people have been injured by soldiers, by Israeli, by being affected by the stun grenades, by the gas bombs, by all sorts of rubber bullets. We call it rubber. It's not really rubber. They are rubber. Inside them are all metal that they are harmful to. Many have been lost their eyesight because of getting these rubber bullets in their eyes.
Okay, Dr. Walid Namor, do appreciate your expertise, so thank you for being with us. Now, our editor-at-large, Ahmed Aliolu, said that today's attack on Al-Aqsa could spark the beginning of the third intifada.
At the time the second intifada started, it was with something similar to this when Ariel Sharon at that time stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now, it's not just when Israeli officials, it's what they're talking about is a group of radical settlers who are planning to commemorate and mark the anniversary of occupying Jerusalem back in 1967. If this happens today, this is going to spark a major confrontation, as basically, first, the Palestinian factions have just released a statement calling for a general mobilization for all their wings and flanks all around the Palestinian territories. The Palestinian Authority itself, on the spokesman of the Palestinian Authority, are saying that this is dangerous. This could lead to major backfire, and this could jeopardize the whole region. It's not only this. Turkey is threatening that if this is going to continue, Turkey is not going to stay silent. The spokesman of the Turkish officials are speaking about this and taking it to the international arena, to the UN resolution, to the UN Security Council. So it's all building up. In the past, Al-Aqsa was the spark to major intifadas in the region. It depends on the Israeli government and the Israeli authorities if they back down and restrain the settlers from storming the compound and stopping this eviction of the houses in Sheikh Jarrah.
Well, earlier today I spoke to Turkey's presidential spokesperson, Ibrahim Kalin. He called on the West to put pressure on Israel.
This is not the first time that Israel is brutalizing holy sites in Jerusalem and violating the basic rights of the Palestinian people. It's part of a systematic attempt to deprive the Palestinians of their basic rights in their own land. But as we have been saying from the very beginning, that these actions are not only illegal, but also they're very dangerous. Israel is playing with fire. Trying to change the religious, historical, and legal status of Jerusalem is a very dangerous game that they are playing there by allowing these Jewish settlers or occupiers, these fundamentalist extremist groups into Jerusalem, into holy sites, especially in the last few days of Ramadan. This is simply not acceptable, and they have to stop this aggression, because as the occupying power, Israel is responsible for the safety and security of the Palestinian people in the occupied lands, whether it's in Jerusalem, West Bank, or Gaza. This is an aggression not only against Muslim Palestinians, but also against Christians, Christian Arabs, and other Palestinians living in Jerusalem and under Israeli occupation. Therefore, we call on everyone in the Western world, from the Pope, from Rome, from the Vatican to the United States, to the Biden administration, from the European Union to individual EU countries, European countries, to raise their voice against this shameful, disgraceful aggression against the Palestinian people.
Well, still to come on this news hour, oil prices jump after a cyber attack shuts down the US's largest fuel pipeline. More on that and a roundup of all today's business stories later in the program.